Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt every single year. You are a diehard. I'm diehard about this guy. His name is Brack. I'm Johnny Venerable. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals matchup this weekend at Philadelphia, which I don't know if you saw the trades this morning. Eagle fans, their ownership group, their franchise, they can't seem to get Jonathan Gannon's name out of their mouth despite their defense being terrible without him.
That's right. The ex continues to complain about what the other one didn't do and how they ruined their life and left them without a prom date that fateful day way back when, and they just can't get over it. And it's unfortunate, and they want to blame him for all their current issues. It's their fault that they can't get off the field on third down. It's their fault that they've plummeted as far as the defensive rankings. And they continue to try to scapegoat Jonathan Gannon, even though he's several months removed, nearly a full year removed from being the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, where he served that role very well. But they want to continue to try to make up and conjure, defensive coordinators that should have gotten the job, beyond the people that they settled on. And it's a ridiculous story. Josh Weinfuss, Tim McManus of ESPN collaborated on it and put it together. But they're still, despite, them figuring out, fair compensation for what was deemed tampering, for Monti Ossenfort, getting on the phone and saying, "Hey, Jonathan, would you be interested in interviewing for a head coaching job?" Yeah, I'd be interested in that. To that extent, and their life was ruined. And they're still trying to pick up the pieces. Well, Jonathan Gannon has since moved on and well focused on his new gig in changing the culture here for the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm embarrassed for the people who asked Jonathan Gannon about this still. Like, we knew this week was coming, and goodness, Gannon's going into this mismatchup severely undermanned. Like, we're going to preview the game all week, but I mean, it's going to be tough for the Cardinals, even with Gannon's, awareness of what Philadelphia wants to do offensively, to stop anybody right now based on their personnel. But we knew this was coming. Yet it's here, and it irritates me all the same. Like, move on with your lives. You're still very much in control of your division this year. He didn't cost you a Super Bowl last year. Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that they continue to harp on it. Yet this is a franchise that fired Doug Peterson. They fired Andy Reid, right? And Jonathan Gannon is currently in vogue to be hated there. And, it doesn't help. Like, Nick Sirianni was dicking around on radio and talking about, I want Gannon to be uncomfortable. I would say that to his face. I'm sorry, Nick, you look uncomfortable this year after you lost your two top performing coordinators on offense and defense. Don't talk about other peanut. You're about to be uncomfortable when your team continues to regress. Like, maybe worry about your own situation. You look like a one-and-done playoff team this year, but you mentioned the article, Weinfuss, McManus, ESPN. This is an excerpt from the article I want to read to everybody. So if you don't really know kind of the timeline, and good fucking hell, we've talked about it enough on this podcast. This is a little bit more in the weeds from McManus and company. So this is from ESPN today. The Eagles, according to McManus, lack of knowledge about where things good between Gannon and the Cardinals put them behind the 8 ball. Cry me a river. You're a professional franchise. Have a contingency plan. At the time, they were confident Gannon was returning for a third season. I can tell you unequivocally that's false. They thought Gannon was going to get the Houston job. So, like, you don't have somebody else ready to go? It wasn't until Friday before the Super Bowl that Ossenfort called Eagles GM Howie Roseman and told him he'd be submitting an interview request for Gannon after the Super Bowl. An Eagles source said Vic Fangio, who was like hanging out on the Eagles coaching staff for like 2 weeks, was around the team, was the top choice to replace Gannon. Well, if that's the case, then the Eagles did a shit job of making sure Fangio knew, hey, I'm ready to go if Gannon's gone. If Gannon had relayed that he planned to interview with the Cardinals, the Eagles could have gotten, quote, the ball rolling on potential replacements. This reads to me like the whole article does, and this is not this is the information that McManus and Weinfuss are getting, that not from Eagles sources. Like, that would not surprise me if that was Howie Roseman or Howie Roseman's mouthpiece. Like, somebody from the executive team in Philadelphia is feeding McManus and Weinfuss that, and so they're reiterating it. Like, if you just weren't prepared, you were caught with your pants down. Sorry, it happens. Like, and you're paying the price for it this year. If you thought Jonathan Gannon, which they did, everybody, it was basically well known, like the owner, in Houston wanted D'Amico Ryans, and that's been a good move for them. The general manager wanted Jonathan Gannon. Gannon thought he was getting that job. He went through cycles of interview processes 2 years ago, and this year was supposed to be the crescendo, and it was, but it was just a little bit later. Philadelphia bitched, and they moaned, and they complained, and they got the league to dock the Cardinals a third. Didn't help that Nick Rallis, on his own free will, told the Eagles, I don't want anything to do. I'm leaving. I'm going with Jonathan Gannon. I'm going to be his defensive coordinator. So it's sour grapes, but I'm not surprised by it at all.
It's not a valid reason to not be able to fill the position with somebody that can continue to help this defense. Like it doesn't give them a hall pass for picking Sean Desai and saying, well, we were handcuffed because of what Jonathan Gannon did. And Benjamin Albright came on this podcast a month before Gannon even had an official interview with the Arizona Cardinals and said, oh, and you guys are going to interview Jonathan Gannon. He said that. He had that officially sourced. So Benjamin Albright knows better than Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman doesn't know that Jonathan Gannon, who orchestrated and was the architect of that defense that racked up those 70 sacks and those 17 interceptions, was going to be a hot commodity during the NFL coaching carousel? Are you that oblivious and ignorant?
Our general manager, I think he said this on our show before, when you and Saul Bookman were at the Super Bowl party last year, it was a Monday Super Bowl party.
Yeah.
The three of us were on a text chain, and like they saw Cardinal brass around Jonathan Gannon at one point, and that put up the flares. That was the Monday before the Friday that supposedly Philadelphia knew that the interview was happening. All this is garbage. This is Philadelphia trying to stir shit up because they're upset, because they've been embarrassed now this season. They were embarrassed in the offseason. If Nick Rallis took the defensive coordinator job in Philadelphia, the tampering charge would never be filed. That's my opinion. But how can you dispute that? They had sour grapes because they lost both their coordinators, and then their heir apparent to JG said, I'm good, and came to the desert, and so they had to complain. And this is what happens. It's really unfortunate because I think there is a segment of the Eagle fan base that has wised up to the idea that losing Gannon as a defensive coach, as a leader, is detrimental to the team.
Yeah.
Like, I like Vic Fangio. Like, the Dolphins defenses, they're solid, right? Philadelphia.
No, they're unbelievable.
They're the Dolphins
the second half of the season, they've been unreal. They've been unbelievable. Even with the Phillips injury, like, they've been fantastic. What Vic Fangio has been able to do down there in South Beach. But look, come on.
I'm trying to compare it to the Gannon season last year.
For sure. And it's pretty comparable, right? I mean, as far as big time numbers.
Do you think what the Dolphins are doing this year is comparable to what Gannon's defense did?
You've watched them recent, like what they're finally finding their rhythm under Fangio, and he's showing that he is one of the better defensive minds,
they look good against Dallas
in the history of the game.
Sure.
But look, like, is Vic Fangio, like, to think that just because number one, you had him in-house for 2 weeks and you couldn't, like, even set the groundwork, like, you didn't feel like maybe you just need to have a conversation, and then Fangio signs the deal on February 15th. I think it was the day after Jonathan Gannon officially became the next Arizona Cardinals head coach. But, like, to say you cost us Vic Fangio is pretty damn ignorant. Like, Vic Fangio, like, he's going to choose, like, I know that Philadelphia is a team on the rise, obviously the run of the Super Bowl, and a lot of intriguing, like, really rock solid young players, especially on that defensive side of the football. But, what's going on in Miami, they're just as a team trending in the right direction. What they can do offensively, about that. Mike McDaniel was one of the hottest, head coaches coming off his rookie season. And then you go to Florida and you couple in, like, no state income tax. You got sunshine year round, like, and you're Philadelphia and saying, well, it's an even playing field because we had a good football team in place and then he was here for 2 weeks. It's like, no, you're not the same. Like, the Dolphins' job was probably the most appealing defensive coordinator position in all of football last year.
And I can tell you definitively, Vic Fangio also was waiting to see if Jim Harbaugh was jumping in the NFL. If Jim Harbaugh had gotten the Vikings job, like the Vikings, what was that, 2 years ago? And then this past year when he was going through, like, the circulation of, is he going to jump to the NFL? Vic Fangio and Jim Harbaugh are very close. Would have joined Jim Harbaugh's staff. Like, I don't like the connection with Fangio, I think, was by and large through Jonathan Gannon, like, which a lot of people don't understand is, like, Jonathan Gannon has a relationship with Vic Fangio dating back to when Fangio was with the Chicago Bears. Like, that relationship isn't through Nick Sirianni. it was through Jonathan Gannon. So a lot of people thought could, Vic Fangio eventually join the staff. So I think it's very frustrating if you're a Cardinal fan. And we were at the Combine last year. I know I've talked about this before, but like the Philadelphia media is just relentless with this story. I'm guessing because it does well, like clicks wise, engagement wise, social media wise. But I feel like kind of read the room a little bit. The angle right now, I'm sure, is like, well, he cost us Vic Fangio, and that's why our defense is bad this year. How about just we had a really strong, maybe an all-time coaching staff last year, and they've left, and we are regressing because of that, and we need to rebuild. We need to retool, and we're a multi-billion dollar franchise, and being on the hook for a defensive coordinator that didn't happen should not go to the heir apparent. Like if I leave tomorrow, if you leave tomorrow, if any of us leave tomorrow from where we work, our employer cannot come to us and say, well, you screwed us out of this candidate. We were going to hire them. Look, see how completely delusional that sounds?
Yeah.
Dim-witted that sounds? That's what the Eagles would want you to believe. Again, all those sources in the article come directly from the Eagles ownership group, executive group, because that article wouldn't be written right now if the Eagles were 10th or 8th in total defense. They would be like, look how great we are. It's our culture. We don't need Jonathan Gannon. The reason this story lives on is because of what we predicted, how incompetent and how big time the Eagles have regressed without JG. So they have to keep the narrative going. Congratulations, you've done it.
Just enough to conjure up some noise before he comes back. And with a severely undermanned roster, and probably, to use Gannon's words, gets effing gutted, unfortunately, at the hands of this Eagles offense. But defensively, like if you're the Eagles, like, and I see, is it Steppen in the chat saying like they're 10-4, what are we upset about? It's like, because defensively they're fraudulent. Like when they go up against the better teams in the NFC, and they're going to have to play in a wild card round, most likely, how are they going to perform? Are they going to be one and done? Like this defense is fully capable of wrecking their wild card weekend potentially because of, they decided to re-up with Bradbury and go back to the negotiation table with Darius Slay and bet on some, older corners. And then also they bring in Jalen Carter, who they're gift wrapped, right? The best defensive player in the draft, but yet they can't make it work out. And then they completely just let their two inside linebackers walk via free agency. Like that's Jonathan Gannon's fault. That's Jonathan Gannon's fault. Howie Roseman's going to point, well, that's JG's fault. That we couldn't match what Kazir White got from the Cardinals. What was it? 2 years, $12 million. TJ Edwards, I know, was going to be a big number. And you don't want to spend money on those positions that aren't deemed premium. But, that factors into it. But they all want to put all the blame on the shoulders of their former defensive coordinator because it's just too convenient.
Yeah. How's reinterpreting the Georgia defense of a couple of years ago? Hey, we're going to get every Georgia defender, and it's going to translate. No, maybe the people who are teaching them technique, coaching them every day, putting them in positions to succeed, maybe those people matter. Maybe it's not just about the players in the SEC dominating college football. Like they're Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. They just try to reinvent Georgia defense in the NFL. No, you've regressed this year. Reed Blankenship was a byproduct of Jonathan Gannon. And now everybody wants to run him out of town in Philadelphia. Well, maybe he just needs a better coach, better defensive coach. I'm sure that the Cardinals, their much maligned defense, feels very fortunate to have Jonathan Gannon at the helm. The staples of this defense, the Garrett Williams, the Dante Stills, the B.J. Ojolaris, the players that they're going to build around, the Buda Bakers, Jalen Thompson. I think Jalen Thompson is a damn good player. He's having his best year to date. Jonathan Gannon at the helm. Like there's something to that. So let's get to some of these super chats. You guys are crushing it. Chaz, $1.99. Gannon going to gut them. I would love to see this be a competitive game. I just don't know how that happens given the state of the Cardinal roster. Merv, $9.99 kind of reiterates that. I genuinely hope AZ Cardinals practice squad / XFL roster makes this game competitive and embarrasses the fucking Eagles. Doesn't have a result in a win, but my God, exposing them would be amazing. I think that if there was ever a game, and somebody put this in the chat earlier, time for Johnny to predict another big game from Kyler. And I know he sat out practice today with a bug. Good hell, if Jonathan Gannon could get a all-star level performance from Kyler Murray one time this year, have his back in Philadelphia. Tyrod Taylor lit up this defense last week. Can Kyler Murray go in and like put 30 points up on this defense and you just kind of let the chips fall where they may? I would absolutely love that. I would sign up for that in a second. Now, if the Eagles, though, want to line up and run, Swift and Jalen Hurts 100 times, the Cardinals do not have the personnel to stop that. If they're smart, they'll do that.
Yeah. And it's going to be a heavy run day for Philly, no doubt about it. And then once they run, just throw a little pass to Devontae Smith or a AJ Brown or even Dallas Goedert, and it's going to probably be a big explosive by them because they'd established the run. So it's it would take Herculean effort from a roster that is ill-equipped, especially dealing with all the injuries this year. And you can say, you're making excuses, but it's just the way I see it is just roster-wise, man for man, talent for talent, the Cardinals should have no business competing with the Eagles. And if they do, and that you do get that, superhuman effort from Kyler Murray, and they put up points, and they're like the Giants were, possession away from tying a football game, then that's a form of a victory for the Arizona Cardinals going into Philly in Week 17.
We've got people asking about the number 1 overall pick. Are the Cardinals going to sit players? We're going to have a lot more time to talk about that here in our next segment. But speaking of players, check out the players on display. How about Thursday Night Football? Little Jets, Cleveland Browns action. The Cardinals line was initially 13, Bo. It has since gone down to about 10 points. And while I'm not mentally strong enough to take the Cardinals plus 10 right now, I am going to dabble with our friends at DraftKings. The DraftKings pick of the week, I'm going to tell you right now, it is going to be the New York Jets plus 7. And speaking of DraftKings, I'm dabbling with the bonus code PHNX. It's time for the Parade in Pasadena. Traditional meets college football action in one epic bowl game. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can make every single play count. We've got bowl games, I think like 5 games tonight. USC, we got UNC. No Caleb Williams, no Drake May, but still plenty of games to dabble on. New customers, 150 in instant bonus bets with just a $5 bet. So again, you're a new customer, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. $5 is going to get you $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download it today. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for a gambling problem. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 20 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Bonus bets, they do expire. So if you get them, use them. 168 hours after they issue, they do expire. League Pass reward issue as promo code to redeem subscription and must be claimed by January 15, 2024. See DraftKings.com/promos for eligibility and restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources, Bo.
If the Suns are going to get hot, it's got to be now, right? Look at the schedule tonight. Take on the Houston Rockets. What is it? Did you say, is this PHNX Suns? Do I need to switch off, or what am I watching? No, like keep it dialed here. They got the Rockets, they got the Hornets, they got the Magic, they got the Trailblazers. There should be some dubs there, and the only place you can catch it, you want to watch it and not be extremely frustrated. Hopefully the frustration days are behind us. You can check them out on Arizona's Family 3 TV and Arizona Family Sports Channel 44. Suns, hopefully about to get hot against these mid-NBA teams. Check them out wherever you live in the Valley or outside the Valley here in the great state of Arizona, maybe as far east as Albuquerque. You can tune in to Phoenix Suns with Arizona Family, AZ Family. Right now, Cox Cable turned to Channel 13. Here in Phoenix, you can just get an antenna, maybe some rabbit ears, and you can tune into Channel 3, 3.5, and Channel 44 here in the Phoenix area. If you're outside, your Flagstaff, Yuma, Tucson, well, wherever you live in Arizona, visit azfamily.com and click Suns Games for listing information in your area. AZ Family is a great resource to help you find Phoenix Suns games on Arizona Family Sports.
Drop a like on this video. Let's get this vid to 250 likes. Help your boys out here on PHNX Cardinals live on a Wednesday. So I was sitting last night, Bo, staying up too late, just kind of screwing around on my phone. And I was talking with somebody, and I was like, well, what's going on with the Panthers schedule? who are the Panthers playing this weekend?
This is the conversation you're having late at
who's
night?
my dad? And I'm sitting
Okay.
there, and we're actually dabbling on DraftKings. I threw some money on UNLV. That didn't go well.
This is dangerous. Let me
yeah.
just say the picture that you're painting, people don't understand how dangerous this truly is. You've got two Venerables. You've got young Johnny Venerable. You've got the elder Johnny, Mr. Venerable, Coach Venerable there. Two diehard Cardinals fans just living and dying with this team. It's after hours. Who knows what's
10:30,
been consumed as far as alcoholic beverages. And you guys, you're dangerous right now. So what's the conversation? You're talking about the Carolina Panthers schedule.
He looks at me and he goes, do you want the number 1 pick? And I had to think about that for a second.
Great question.
I don't think I do. Do I want the number 1 overall pick? We're 2 weeks away. And then I'm like, I got Greg Braggs Jr. at CHGO saying the Bears have a 96% chance to get the number 1. I didn't even entertain it. I've watched the Panthers all year. I had Chuba Hubbard in fantasy. They're terrible.
Now, Greg Braggs, he regurgitated that. No way he cracked the math on that himself.
He might have.
There's no way. There's no way.
So then he's like, I'll give my dad credit. He's like, well, have you considered this? And I'm like, what? CJ Beathard potentially could start for Jacksonville this week. Carolina goes to Jacksonville. And it sounds like Trevor Lawrence is going to play. His shoulder's screwed up. The Panthers have lost, I think, 4 or 5 in a row. Or excuse me, the Jaguars. That's who Carolina plays today. I'm like, okay, big deal. They beat the Jaguars. What does that do for them? I said they're going to play Tampa in week 18, and Tampa Bay, they're hot right now. They're like one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And then I looked, I said, what's Tampa's clinching scenario this weekend? Can it happen? It probably needs like 7 things to happen, right? Wrong. They play the Saints at home. Tampa Bay beats the Saints at home. Guess what? They lock up the NFC South. Guess what? They may sit people in week 18. Let's check out the remaining.
Kyle Trask, could he be in line to start against the Carolina Panthers?
Let's check out some sizing of some schedules here. The Arizona Cardinals, if they lose to the Eagles and Seahawks, are potentially CJ Beathard and Kyle Trask away from securing the number 1 overall pick. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think Cardinals lose to the Eagles, Panthers beat the Jaguars, and they're tied, and it's just the simplest strength of schedule that separates them. I mean, it's borderline uncomfortable. Now, what I will say is, like, I don't hate the idea of having the number 1 overall pick. It's not my preference. I'd rather be in a safe spot to get Marvin Harrison Jr. But, like, if the Cardinals get the number 1 overall pick, if this happens, Bo Brock, well, first of all, let me get your opinion. Do you think this can happen, what I'm describing?
Well, I'm looking at the Panthers right there at 2-13. They haven't won 2 games in a row all season. They've won 2 games all season. So to think that they can line it up in back-to-back Sundays and pull off dubs, I am very skeptical of that happening. I don't care who the opposing quarterback is. Yeah, but playing well. Come on, bring up. I'm going to bring up the Panthers' last couple of games. You say he's playing well. What does that mean?
Like 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Everybody, while Bo was doing that,
3 touchdowns,
312 and 2 touchdowns against the Packers. And then, but in the win that he had, they won 9-7. They had good 3
good defense. They beat the Falcons, who were beating the snot out of everybody else.
They have a good defense. They just gave up 30 points, but they got a good defense because they held the Falcons one time to 7 points.
Okay, so you're skeptical it can happen even if they face CJ Beathard and Kyle Trask?
Like it's going to be a sweat. Like those games are going to be like one of them is going to be a sweat, but I don't think that they pull off back-to-back dubs. That would be nuts. That would be, but and to say that it's completely out, I'm outside my mind to think it couldn't happen. But I think most likely scenario, max 1 more win for them, and then the strength of schedule does the work. But the concern, your true concern about getting the number 1 pick is what?
That I think clearly I'm not the biggest Drake May guy. Caleb Williams is I still think with all his faults and the May year that he had and the issues off the field, I
think Arizona Animal just said it.
I think he's a generational quarterback prospect. And suddenly that is presented to Austin Ford and Gannon again. And while that is not my preference, I don't think they're going to entertain Drake May this offseason. I cannot tell everybody in this chat, I can't tell you and producer Jacob that they wouldn't entertain Caleb Williams. I don't think anybody can.
Right? They should. Like, you need to have that conversation as an organization. As much as, like, I understand the woes that go into a rookie quarterback, but business-wise, as an organization, you look at the arm talent that Caleb Williams possesses and the ability after one season of absorbing a ton of dead cap. It's not the Denver Broncos where you'd be absorbing probably multiple seasons, right? If you pulled off a trade for Kyler and you reset the quarterback contract, I mean, business-wise, it makes the most sense, especially if they're very similar as far as skill sets and what kind of conflict you're looking for from the opposing defense to be created from that quarterback.
I also think you have to factor in with Carolina, they have no incentive to lose. They are trying to win games, whereas if they own that number 1 overall pick, maybe there's a lack of urgency. They would love it to stick it to Chicago and say, well, we're not going to gift you the number 1 overall pick. You can't tell me that's not a factor here. They're playing hard. And again, like I think if they face 2 backup quarterbacks, or if they face Trevor Lawrence with one arm and he can't throw the football and Jacksonville's reeling and people might get fired there, it will be interesting to see if we are here this time next week and they have the same record and the only thing that separates them is a week 18 loss. And if the Arizona Cardinals lose in Seattle against Seattle, I mean, to me, it's just, I think no one's talking about it. It's not like I'm bringing it up for the first time, but I don't see anybody running with this where it's like the schedule could align for the Panthers to really screw the Chicago Bears. I put that tweet out last night at like 11:30, and I had a couple people from Chicago saying like, this is the Bears' worst nightmare, Bear fans' worst nightmare, because the Bears very much feel like they hold all the cards, like they have immense leverage.
Yeah.
Like I see Bears fans talking about, we're going to get Marvin and we're going to get multiple ones and we're going to roll with Justin Fields. I saw something else where it was like, it was like Max Crosby, 3 1s, 2 2s to the Raiders for the number 1 overall pick. I think the Bears and their fan base, they're in for a reality check when it's Caleb Williams 1-1 to Chicago. And I think, like, as much as I love Kyler Murray, like as people have pointed out in the chat, Caleb's got egos, he's got flaws, but he's cheap and they will consider it. Like, I don't think they'll consider it certainly at number 2 or number 3, but man, if we're sitting here in 2 weeks and they have the first overall pick, you basically light your draft board on fire. Everything that we previewed, everything we've done, I think goes out the window and literally becomes the most incognito offseason of all time.
Well, Ian Rappaport told Jody Ayler last week that he thinks Kyler's market would be bigger and better than Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So not only would you have the ability to draft quarterback caliber of Caleb Williams, and I understand like very similar skill set to Kyler Murray, just a little bit bigger. He's instead of 5'10", he's 6'1", runs more to make throws, not so much to run to make big plays with his legs. But very similar as far as their skill sets and arm talents there, right? And then there's the maturity issue, right? You're going to have to develop, and you're going to have to see it in real time, the maturation, hopefully, of the leader, of the quarterback, Caleb Williams. But then you would get something in return from Kyler, and then also you would have that pick again with Houston. So like there is a multiverse where that's a very real possibility, and that happens for the Arizona Cardinals. And I think any organization that has 1-1, if they don't have that conversation at least, that's organizational malpractice. Like,
Agreed.
This is just what you have to do. And if you make the decision to move forward with Kyler Murray, I understand that. But you're going to have to be pretty precise as far as your game plan. And I think they are in a good situation of building around him.
And again, we would have to go through all the layers and all the headlines of, would Caleb Williams even entertain playing for the Arizona Cardinals?
For sure.
Would he pull an Eli Manning? Like, I think that's a possibility with Chicago. Washington, there was a report today, they're infatuated with him. It's like, get in line. You're picking 3. Like, I think, again,
I think going to talk themselves in the Jaden Daniels.
Right.
I think
somebody
was saying that now there's 3 quarterback prospects, and they included the Heisman Trophy winner. Used to play at ASU.
Sports Illustrated did a mock, and they had all 3 of them go 1, 2, 4, and the Cardinals, or 1, 3, 4, and the Cardinals take Marvin second. I'm here for that. Do it, push it down. But I think it would be easier for the Cardinals to say, if Caleb rubbed them the wrong way, we're going to roll with Kyler Murray, and we're going to trade him. We're going to get assets, and maybe you can still find a way to get Marvin Harrison Jr. in that scenario. I think it would be more difficult for Chicago, assuming they gut the house and they say, Caleb, come here. We're going to, set you up with an offensive coach. And he just says, no, thanks. Like, then what do the Bears do? Do they take Drake May? The Cardinals have a contingency plan if this happens. Now we're still a long way for this happening, but I do think it's worth discussing because of who the Carolina Panthers and who the Arizona Cardinals face each of the next 2 weeks. It would take a Herculean effort for these next 2 games. That team could not have looked less talented or at sometimes more disinterested in playing against Chicago. And now they have to go to Philadelphia. And then the Seattle Seahawks and their, hundreds of fans are going to infiltrate State Farm Stadium in week 18. And you've got a 4th and 5th string defensive line and 3rd string linebackers. I mean, it's going to take a Herculean effort. Not to say it can't happen, but I to your point, I'll echo it from yesterday. I do not think the Cardinals are winning another game this year. The way the Panthers have been playing, if they get back-to-back backups, especially if Tampa is sitting players in week 18, if they come out, not only if it's Kyle Trask, their roster, their roster, Tampa's been good this year, is not deep enough to start backups upon backups and beat Carolina's once. I don't care who you are. Carolina will run the football and win that game. DJ Chark and Adam Thielen have been playing good football. DJ Chark had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Packers.
Johnny. They lost 28-6 to the Saints. They lost 28-6 to the Saints recently.
Bad matchup. They've lost some close games this year. They have every incentive.
Because they're a bad team. Bad teams lose. They find ways to lose. They're going to find a way to lose one of the next 2
Give me a
games.
bad team versus 3rd stringers in week 18.
And you will strike just fear in Johnny Venerable's heart.
In Carolina. I'm going to tell you right now.
In Carolina, that's a home field advantage. They're selling tickets for 45 cents, dude. There was nobody there.
They beat
There's the one guy. Go, Bryce Young, go. Go, Bryce Young, go. And that's going to just rattle Tampa Bay Buccaneers players to their core.
If they beat the Jaguars this week, I'll make a prediction on the show next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals are getting the 1st overall pick.
Okay. You know what? I hope that happens so you make that prediction because I want to see it.
Do you want that? You didn't answer my other question. Do you want the number 1 overall pick?
I'm with everybody. I would much rather just be easier. Can they just be in a position to get Marvin Harrison Jr.? That's all I want. That's all I want. I was fortunate enough today to hear Paris Johnson Jr. wax poetic about his former teammate at Ohio State. He was talking to Tristan Colon, who is a Missouri alum, and they were talking about, who was going to win the bowl matchup between the Buckeyes and Mizzou. And normally you'd be like, oh, that's a slam dunk. It's going to be Ohio State, but their quarterback transferred out. And Paris Johnson Jr. said, if the greatest player in college football plays, Buckeyes are going to roll. And he's talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. And he was talking about what separates Marvin Harrison Jr. from other good wide receivers. Because Paris was talking about this and he's saying, I played with some really good receivers from the high school level to playing with Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets, Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. But he says that there's a big difference with a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. because he said he would get there for breakfast. And who's out there catching passes? Marvin Harrison Jr. Who's there when he's leaving? So at 6 a.m, Harrison's there. When he's leaving 8 o'clock at night in Columbus, who's there? Marvin Harrison Jr. His work ethic, along with his unbelievable God-given talents that were, handed down from his Hall of Fame father, Marvin Harrison, who caught passes at the highest level from Peyton Manning. Marvin Harrison Jr. outworks everybody despite any of that. And that has to just get you absolutely geeked about the Cardinals' potential of getting a wide receiver like that.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're sitting here and it feels like it's almost predetermined But instead of the Cardinals winning a game or two to push them out of the Marvin Harrison Jr. sweepstakes, they could be losing 2 consecutive games and putting them in the conversation for the first overall pick. It's a very fascinating dynamic. The one common denominator, Cardinals continue to lose games. Chaz, $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much. He's got back-to-back. Can't we trade with Carolina if we urgently want Marvin Harrison Jr.? Well, I mean, and I'm assuming he means through Chicago's pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Chicago Bears, if they pick 1-1, there's a very low chance that they go receiver first overall. If they have a new head coach, maybe not a new GM, they have DJ Moore, they have Cole Kmet. You're telling me it's either going to be Caleb Williams or like a package of 5 picks or Marvin. And I love Marvin and everything Bo just said. Marvin, he tears his ACL next year. You're in the same spot if you're Chicago. You have to make it count. And I think the Cardinals, if they pick 2, their preference would be to take Marvin Harrison Jr. because he'll be available. I just don't see the Chicago Bears. Benjamin Albright, we've reiterated this. He put this out on Twitter, said the Chicago Bears are very likely to move on from Justin Fields. Like that, that's
Listen
not
to Adam Hogue.
He
joined our podcast last week. Adam Hogue said, if you're a Cardinals fan and you're rooting for Marvin Harrison Jr., you should be rooting for the Chicago Bears to get the number 1 pick via the Carolina Panthers. And then I watched Hogue again today talking about Justin Fields and saying, if the debate continues to even pick up his 5th-year option, what are you even doing thinking about moving forward with this quarterback? If the debate remains real, then what are you doing? It feels like your decision is made for you, especially if you're sitting 1-1. I do agree with you. I think that it's either they take Caleb Williams and pivot at the quarterback position, trade Justin Fields, get whatever they can in return, which is going to be decent because there's going to be some quarterback-hungry team and some offensive coordinator that believes in his ability to tap into Justin Fields' potential. But they either take Caleb Williams or they trade out for a haul of picks. And then sit right there at number 2 overall, open arms, Monti Ossenfort. And he's talked about this. He talked about it with 3rd overall last year. He's going to weigh the risk and the reward as far as trading down. If you trade down out of a spot to get Marvin Harrison Jr., you better be able to get, the package of picks that's going to equal the production that you're going to get from that caliber of player.
And I would argue with anybody that the value that they got last year of trading out of 3 and what they got in return, a right tackle that has immense promise, that hasn't missed a snap this year. And, oh, by the way, additional resources in this draft. I like Will Anderson Jr. He's got 5 sacks on the year. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah.
Right. The Cardinals were not a Will Anderson Jr. away. I disagree wholeheartedly with the idea of trading down from 2 for watered down version of what you could just take it to. Like, I know people were talking up Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors, and those guys could be great. I think will be great to some degree. Marvin Harrison Jr., I hate using like the term sure thing. He's close as a sure thing as there is in the draft process that I can remember. Like Penei Sewell, everybody knew was going to be great. He's the best tackle right now in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Jamar Chase had that same tag to him. Larry Fitzgerald, once upon a time, and we talked about this before. There have been very few. The hit rate on receivers when they are labeled generational typically translates 9 out of 10 times. I think at worst, you're getting a Pro Bowler for 10 years, and at best, you're getting a Hall of Fame level receiver. Like, people picked apart poor CeeDee Lamb when he came out. He's a slot receiver, X, Y, and Z. He's got an outside chance at 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, like, what are we even doing? If that's what you're getting from Marvin Harrison Jr., you take him. You absolutely take him. So I think the decision, that's why I'm very confident. If the Cardinals are picking 2, put the ticket in now, it's over. Assuming the medicals check out, he declares, which he's out of the bowl game. Sounds like he's going to declare. And Jessica in the chat, I miss Fitzgerald so much. You touched on this earlier this week. There is a level of not pressure from Michael Bidwell, but Michael Bidwell, the owner, is going to be much more pro. Let me get my next Larry Fitzgerald, my ambassador of this franchise, on top of Kyler Murray, print the jerseys, print the money, instead of, oh, we're taking another quarterback and I have to eat this money with Kyler Murray, and we're eating the money with Keim and Kingsbury. And it's just like, we don't know if Drake May is going to work out. Caleb checks all the boxes, and he's productive from day one. You can't even say that about Caleb Williams. Marvin checks all the boxes.
No, he does, and then some. Already going to come in and be one of the hardest working players in the organization. And for Paris Johnson Jr. to see firsthand Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, guys who are on the rise at the NFL level, top receivers on their respective teams, and then say there's a difference even between those guys and Marvin Harrison Jr. And Marvin Harrison, another thing he said, is a very soft-spoken young man. Who's that remind you of, Jessica? Well, Larry Fitzgerald, right? So, and as you pointed out, Johnny, what would it be? It would be 20 years, basically.
Very poetic.
Yeah.
Almost to the pick. Now, the Cardinals were picking third. Now they're going to be picking second, which helps their odds to get him. So I'm not complaining about that. 20 years. And listen, it's suddenly become two. Like when we talked about Marvin in August and September and October, you just take him. He's the best player. He fits a need now that we can't overemphasize because of how bad the Cardinal receivers are. They can't get open. Hollywood Brown, where is he? DeAndre Hopkins is off this team. Michael Wilson hit a rookie wall. You need him. It's not like a luxury. Like when the Cardinals drafted Larry Fitzgerald, they had, Anquan Bolden off an Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign. You have nothing at wide receiver to build off of outside of Michael Wilson. No. It makes all the sense in the world. Whereas for Chicago, it makes zero sense other than let me fanboy out on some YouTube clips of Justin Fields running around and look at this with DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Cole Kmet. That's not real football, man. Like you're going to saddle a third head coach with Justin Fields. As I love to say this to the Chicago Bear fans because I love them. I grew up in Illinois. The fuck you are. You're getting a new quarterback. You're getting a new head coach. You're not taking him first overall. 0.000. Put the popcorn down and enjoy your franchise quarterback. Congratulations to Ryan Poles. They took advantage of Carolina. It blew up in Carolina's face. You're going to potentially reap the benefits of that. You're not taking Marvin to pair with Justin Fields. You're taking Caleb Williams. Hello, end of story. Assuming he wants to play there.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. We talked about the ticket prices for Charlotte, about the Carolina Panthers game. 45 cents gets you in the door. You find that on your Game Time app. You could probably find some tickets that finale if you wanted to. You just have to pay for the airfare. Get down there and watch it and see if the Carolina Panthers can lock in the top pick for the Bears or gift it to the Arizona Cardinals, Johnny.
Yeah, Game Time, there's never been a better time to use Game Time, and I say that with all transparency. Bowl season, NBA action. I've been to a Suns game this year. Oregon Liberty right around the corner. I would imagine is a hot ticket in town. And then you can also talk spring training games right around the corner. There's so much good stuff going on top of the Cardinal finale against, could be the Marvin Harrison game. You might want to keep your tickets up to secure Marvin Harrison Jr., but do it with our friends at Game Time. $20 off your first purchase with the code PHNX. Again, it's the only ticketing app I use. I use it to park. I use it to get my tickets. I check them out same day. They have how other vendors have lightning deals? They do that. And I've been at games and I've checked Game Time and you can get in second quarter, third quarter for pennies on the dollar. It's fantastic. It's a lively app. It's not an old school app that takes forever. It's plug and play. I'm all about easy, convenient ticketing apps. Download it today. Create an account. Again, PHNX bonus code, $20 off your first purchase. Hell, that might cover most of your purchase. Terms and conditions apply. But again, PHNX is the bonus code to get that $20 off, Bo, for new customers.
Absolutely. And also the best place to go save some money while getting some unbelievable eyewear is our friends over at Shady Rays. It's premium polarized shades that are built to last. It's an independent sunglasses company that's a world-class product, but not at a world-class price. You can actually save a ton of money by using the promo code PHNX. When you log on to ShadyRays.com, check out two or more pairs of the sunglasses there, full product line on the website, and you'll save yourself 50% off two or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. They've got an insane protection plan on all their eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose, you break a pair, well, they're going to actually send you a brand new pair, no questions asked, long after your purchase. Check them out, Shady Rays. They got a store up in North Scottsdale, Kierland Commons. Check that out. You can even use that promo code. Tell your sales associate. They'll honor it there. But easiest way to do it, log on, ShadyRays.com. Use that promo code PHNX for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I love the engagement in the chat. If you haven't already, consider dropping a like. It helps circulate the video around the YouTube algorithm here. Chaz taking a shot at our boy K1 $1.99. Thank you, Chaz. We can always give K1 3-inch booster cleats. Come on, man. How about just some bigger receivers? Like, I was trying to think the other day, like Kyler's most productive receivers, they've all been bigger guys. D-Hop's over 6 foot. AJ Green, Trey McBride, he was good with Zach Ertz. Farrell Cooper early in his career. Fitzgerald, like, I mean, show me the elite quarterbacks in the NFL that only have small receivers. And I like Kyler knows his shortcomings, like physically. It's like, why would you placate to that? If you're a quarterback that doesn't have mobility, guess what? Your head coach, you're probably your general manager, build up the offensive line, right? Kyler is shorter than most quarterbacks. Give him bigger targets. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No. I mean, it's just more often than not, the bigger, faster, more physical wide receiver is going to win battles, right? Like, unless you've got elite speed, elite separation all the time, and you're really rock solid route runner, at 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", it usually, this game usually favors the bigger, stronger, more physical guys.
I'm catching strays in the chat from Steven. Johnny knows short, laugh out loud. I mean, yeah, I do. I don't play NFL wide receiver, though. I'll tell you what, though, that ball Rondale Moore had him hit right in the chest on 3rd down last week. I at least would have tried to jump for that. It definitely would have hit off my face mask, though. Merv, our guy, another super chat, $9.99. We can all dream and hope the way Johnny does if we drink enough kilt lifters from Four Peaks Brewery. You bet your ass, Merv. That's how we get things done at the Venerable House after hours. We dabble in some 4 Peaks, and then we get on the PFF mock draft simulator. We start mocking up some trades. We look at strength of schedule. We're doing the homework so that this show can continue to be the #1 Arizona Cardinal podcast, Bo.
That's right. We're living this. We're a bunch of sickos. We're on the mock draft simulator when we're not on air with everybody else or in the Discord hanging out, having a blast, just thinking of better times that are in the near future of this organization. I mean, 2 more weeks, like 10 more days. Cardinals football. You got a game on Sunday, and then you got 1 more game after that, 7 days from then, January 7th against the Seattle Seahawks. And then that's it. No football for Cardinals fans until next August for the preseason. But you got a lot of things in between, including 13 picks in the NFL draft. But the future looks bright, I mean, as far as the head coach position, obviously, in a real hectic week where he goes back to Philadelphia, where they're up in arms still over his exit. And then you got Monti Ossenfort, who has set this Cardinals team up to have just an unbelievable offseason. And you think about what could have been. Like, what were we talking about just at nauseum at this time last year?
The Sean Payton tracker. Yeah. We have our Monti Ossenfort tracker during the season. We had our Sean Payton tracker technically it wasn't even the offseason. We started talking about it, I think, in early November. And then, it came to fruition with his visit here. We had the great video from Cam Cox, Channel 12, and that picture with he and Michael Bidwell. And the Denver Broncos, they've had a really nice season en route to 7 wins. And they have subsequently benched their quote-unquote franchise quarterback and appear to be dead set to take on a historic amount of dead money by releasing said quarterback Russell Wilson this offseason, Bo.
It all went down in flames, right? And what, I think people were seeing at the beginning of the season when they were just a hot garbage disaster, right? When they came out and they got a 70 burger hung on them by the Miami Dolphins, and we were pointing and laughing as they went through the Vance Joseph experience. And as it sometimes does, it comes back a little bit and that defense gets going. But then when they got themselves back into the playoff race, they folded like a folding chair, and like a cheap one from Walmart. And they, despite, Russell Wilson's nice statistics or whatever, when you watch games, you realize that something's off with this offense. There's no consistency to it. There's no rhythm to it. And you've seen very recently him at odds with his head coach, Sean Payton. And it's just like, I don't know, that obviously that seems inevitable, a divorce, but then armed with just 6 draft picks next offseason, that dead money, all that money they spent this previous offseason to try to get this team back into, a contending roster. I don't know if Sean Payton ever gets these guys to 500.
Well, you talk about the Cardinals resetting the roster. Like the Broncos tried to take the opposite approach of just like throwing money at their problems. Like, would they like a mulligan on that Zach Allen contract, or it really kicks up into high gear next offseason? Like, you weren't in a position to compete this year, but I think to Sean Payton's credit, like if the Walmart people threw like $90 million at me, I would try to make Russell Wilson work. But you texted me off air today, like, who is going to be their quarterback next year?
Yeah.
It's going to be like Bo Nix or Ryan Tannehill, and they're going to try tooth and nail to be like a 500 team next year in the quarterback rich AFC. I'm sure that they feel like now with these last couple games, it's in their best interest to lose said games. They have their first round pick this year. Like, could they sneak in on a Jaden Daniels? I don't know. But to me, it's like their roster, you're going to see the cracks in the foundation like the Cardinals had. When you miss on so many draft picks and then subsequently ship out a bunch of picks to, thanks a lot, guys, Seattle, which kickstarts their rebuild, like you mask it for a little bit with some veteran in free agency, and they've got some nice veterans there, but like the meat of the roster is bad. We've seen that. And so now it's like you're going to be on the hook for all of that Russell Wilson money, and you're really going to start to feel the lack of those draft picks. Whereas the Cardinals are on the opposite end. They took their medicine this year. They've got a quarterback in-house. They've got 13 draft picks. They've got $70-80 million, and they've got a regime that has immense clarity on what they want to do. And what they want to do is they want to put a winning product on the field in 2024. They expect to make the postseason. Like Sean Payton can go out there when we see him at the combine in March and say, yeah, we expect to be in the playoffs next year. How is that going to happen? Like, I can envision a scenario in which Kyler Murray, a boatload of money, free agents, a robust draft class, the Cardinals win 9 games next year. I can easily see Baker Mayfield's in the playoffs in the NFC.
Yeah.
I can see that happening tomorrow. 4th place schedule, easier schedule. Like Denver Broncos, Patrick Mahomes, they'll be better. What if Jim Harbaugh goes with Justin Herbert with the LA Chargers? The Raiders are very competent all of a sudden. Like the Broncos, to me, this feels like quarterback purgatory, now team purgatory, where congratulations on your perennial 6-7 wins per season.
Yeah, it looks like the end of Peyton's tenure in New Orleans, where they were in cap hell and they just couldn't like generate enough talent. There wasn't enough via free agency or whatever they lacked or had in draft capital to really swing it in one direction or the other. And it's just like sitting there in some sort of NFL purgatory. And it's like, if you're not competing, if you're not on the rise, if you're not in complete rebuild, if you don't have a true direction of your organization, and it becomes like that Kime-esque, like, we're never rebuilding. It's like, well, then you're going to have some tough times. You're going to have some times where you go from anywhere from like, they're a 7-8 team this year, and they're probably going to be right around 7 or 8. And like, what does that get you at the end of the year? Like, oh, like, great, you competed, but also, did you actually contend? Did you compete for something special? And that organization, would they make themselves out to be these last 2 off seasons? Like, something they're not right now, something they haven't been for a long time. I mean, this is going to continue. This is going to continue one of the longest droughts in American sports right now, with not getting to the postseason and not being a 500 team.
Do you think now, with what we've seen from Sean Payton, that had they hired Sean Payton, that Kyler Murray's days would be numbered with this franchise?
I think they dodged a serious bullet. And this comes from somebody that thought, Sean Payton puts you in a position to do what they tried to do in Denver, and thank God they didn't try to do here. They understood the assignment. They understood that this thing was more than just adding talent to the roster. This needed to be taken down to the studs.
Yeah.
And what was necessary had to be done, and they did it. And now they got to rebuild this thing. That it would have been a disaster if they brought in Peyton. And you're right. I could very well see the quarterback position being dealt with how it's been dealt with in Denver. And, without the grace of, hey, you've got an ACL injury and you're learning a brand new offense.
Vanessa's saying being in the middle is a bad place to be. I 100% agree. Not to contend or get a high draft pick. It's very much how the Cardinals operated as an organization from about 2000 to 2007, 2006. Every year it was like contention, let's sign veterans, let's get a veteran quarterback in here. And then until they, caught lightning in a bottle and they had some solid draft classes in 2004, like it was like every year the Cardinals were 5-11. Never bad enough to get the first overall pick, get a quarterback, never good enough to make the postseason. And it just feels like the Broncos epitomize that now. And I think, didn't they want Aaron Rodgers to go with Nathaniel Hackett? And that didn't work out, so they pivoted. The Bears tried to get Russell Wilson. Like, I've still got the tweet up to this day. I thought, based on the Russell Wilson I saw kick the Cardinals' ass for a decade, I thought it was a huge heist for what the Seattle Seahawks were losing and what the Broncos were giving up. I thought the Broncos wholeheartedly won that trade, because the Russell Wilson I've known for forever, the Hall of Fame player, is a complete culture shifter. But Pete Carroll was right. Turns out they were absolutely 100% right. And now he's a player that I don't know if he's got an NFL future. I'm sure he'll be on a roster somewhere next year, but he's a year-to-year player now. So certainly an end of the era. But I think the stark difference is, like, he's in his 30s, man. He's got a lot of mileage on his body. He was drafted in 2012. Kyler Murray was drafted 7 years after the fact. And so I saw a lot of people trying to do apples to oranges on Twitter today, saying, see, look, they ate all their dead money for their quarterback that's not producing. Come on. Are we really going to do this? Kyler Murray, I don't know how long he's going to play football, but in my opinion, you've got a really good shot to be competitive immediately next year if you just tinker with some things. Whereas Russell Wilson, it's clear to them they can't win with him.
AK Deadline saying, does Nick Rallis deserve another year at DC? He obviously has more to learn. No doubt about it. I think this entire coaching staff has a lot to learn. In all three phases, no doubt about it, but especially the first year guys, JG at top to Rallis to Petzing. But I don't think you can remove Rallis. He's one of the hotter commodities this offseason. He's a young up and coming coordinator at 30 years old. And he was asked to make chicken salad out of chicken shit as far as the roster goes. I mean, defensively, where's the talent outside of Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson? The defensive line up front, probably the least talented position group in the NFL.
Blaine in the chat, he's got two comments here. I'm going to read them back to back.
Okay.
Because I think, listen, they're well thought out. I'm in disbelief that people really think Monti Ossenfort has seen enough to move forward and build his entire team around Kyler. It's unreal. No chance he's sold on what he's watched the last 2.5 years. People are acting like Kyler's Monty's guy. He's worked his entire life to get in this position, and I'm not sure he wants to saddle himself with Kyler. So, though, very, very real points. Especially you're in a position to take a quarterback. The easy thing is just cut bait with K1, take one of these college quarterbacks. Here's where I would push back. And here, what we touched on a little bit on yesterday's show. The Arizona Cardinals roster is in such disarray that you need to go at the top of the draft and secure as many sure things as you know. And also, and I was texting with my buddy Seth Cox today, and it's like Kyler Murray comes back next year and you put a competent team around him, you have a good chance to win 8 to 10 games if he stays healthy. We've seen that. He's won 11 games in the NFL. If you take a rookie quarterback, I think it is borderline, as you've mentioned, football malpractice to take a Drake May and put him on this roster. You might have the first overall pick like Carolina did. Like, Carolina's roster was better than Arizona's this year. They have the first overall pick. So you can be confident in your evaluation of Drake May or Caleb Williams. Doesn't mean that you're not going to lose a bunch of games. I think the better alternative, and this is the route I believe that they're going to go, because I know Gannon and Ossenfort love what they've seen from Kyler Murray, is that you build this roster up and collect as much talent as you can through the draft and supplement some in free agency. You try to win games with Kyler Murray and hope that he continues to ascend and has a bounce back year next year. But guess what? If he doesn't, you can take a quarterback at any point outside of 2024. Take a quarterback in 2025 in the second round. Go get a Jalen Hurts. And I know that's easier said than done. I would imagine Jalen Hurts, a lot of his success came from the infrastructure of that franchise. Carson Wentz goes down. He's not playing well. Listen, they've added Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. They've got the best offensive line in football. They've got running backs. They've got Dallas Goedert. They've got Zach Ertz. The Cardinals are not in a position to support a rookie quarterback. They literally sacrificed their 5th-round rookie to the Cleveland Browns and had the worst performance by a starting quarterback of the last 20 years. It's really now to the point where I don't even know if this is a Kyler Murray argument anymore. He's got a lot of money that's owed to him. You don't want to have the dead cap. Build the roster up. Michael Bidwell is going to look at the roster and say, Austin Ford, you added a couple Pro Bowlers in the first round. Look at our roster. And then Kyler Murray is going to elevate it to some degree. And if you feel like you need to get to the next level and you can't do that with K1, do it with somebody else. That would be my pushback on replacing Kyler Murray.
It's a great point. A couple great points. No doubt about it. Still, 3-win season has you turn to the OGs after just about every game, right?
Yeah.
You go and you get your favorite flavored bag out, and you're sitting on your couch and you're taking your woes and you're helping them out by our friends over at OG's Brands. Go to ogsbrands.com, find the winning combination for yourself, because their cannabis experience, it's not just fit towards one experience. It's tailor fit to what you're looking for from your gummies. They've got a variety of bold flavors. OG's gummies are a slam dunk for your taste buds. Plus, you can customize that experience, just as I said, based on the desired effect and strength. Go to ogsbrands.com, OGEEZ brands.com, and find out which gummies are for you right now. They've got the fruits, they've got the creams, they've got the mixed bags, they got their mouth-watering pegs, raspberry, orange, RSO. And there's something for everyone in the OG's lineup. Check them out at your local dispensary. I encourage you to follow them on your socials at OG's Brands. And once again, check out that website, ogsbrands.com, for the full product line. Got to be 21 years or older.
I'm going to tell you right now, the best decision I ever made financially was pivoting to Desert Financial Credit Union, which is also the credit union, the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals for more than 84 years. Desert Financial has been Arizona's most largest trusted local credit union, dedicating to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make life better. They've got financial experts standing by who are committed to their members and the community. They can hook you up: checking, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. And rock the Red Sea Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. I do the same. Show your team spirit. Check them out. DesertFinancial.com to get started. I promise. Just takes a couple minutes to sign up. You'll get your debit card in the mail just a few days after the fact. Best part about Desert Financial, on top of their elite customer service, they've got a ton of locations. So if I need an ATM, don't want to pay an ATM fee at a random ATM, I know there's a Desert Financial Credit Union just in arm's reach here in the Valley. Check them out again, desertfinancial.com, Bo.
See, Marco Wilson got claimed off waivers from the New England Patriots, so he'll go to Foxborough. He'll play under Bill Belichick maybe for the next two games. Well, probably won't be in the lineup this week. Maybe he gets to play in the finale, or maybe it's somebody they want to have on the roster beyond this season, or kick the tires on Marco Wilson. Also looked like, according to Field Yates, that Denver had made a claim on Marco Wilson. So they wanted to reunite him with his old DC Vance Joseph.
That's cute. I like that.
Yeah.
But he was like the one rookie that played for Vance Joseph because they literally had no one else. And he plays best football under him. He had that awesome pick six against Andy Dalton on Thursday Night Football. But listen, I hope he finds success elsewhere. Cardinals had no plans for him. They were like, please leave. And so we'll see if he New England, though, like, is Belichick even going to coach that team next year? He'll probably be available.
They got rid of Jack Jones, who now has a couple pick sixes for the Raiders in the last couple of weeks and playing a decent high clip. But obviously he had character issues, and Marco has never had any like true character issues off the field like they dealt with Jones, who, tried to take allegedly 2 firearms through TSA, which is ridiculous. But Marco Wilson now, he goes, and this is his next chance to continue his NFL career. So I think they get him for the 1 year that he has left on his contracts now, that I believe, since they picked him up off waivers. So much like the Michael Carter thing with the Cardinals benefit having Carter under contract through 2024. So Marco Wilson goes to the Pats. We'll see if he can stick with Belichick or whoever may be the next coach there.
What do you make real quick of this Jaire Alexander situation in Green Bay? I joked on Twitter, they're both Louisville graduates, he and JG. So let's get him to Arizona. He's 27. Looks like the Packers are like super pissed off.
Well, what an absolute knucklehead move that he had.
Come on.
Carolina.
He was his hometown. He wanted to go out for the coin toss.
So he just strolled out there, not a captain, and then he's making the wrong call, basically. He's out there and he's saying, we want to defend. And luckily somebody's like, you want to defer? Yeah. I mean, he's just like, I was out there because it was my hometown. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Sounds like a guy being a dude, having a good time, trying to play ball. I I have no issue with it. But you know what? That's the kind of move the Cardinals need to make if they can't sign a free agent quarterback. Cornerback. Go and find a
What are you
team that
giving up for Jaire Alexander?
one of the
16?
threes, a third, one of the
A
thirds.
third? He's a top corner in this league, despite him being an idiot.
LaFleur looked like he was about to lose his shit on him. I could see the Packers trading him away for spite, make an example.
Come
Maybe
on.
2 threes, a 3 this year, a 3 next year.
Get your rose-colored glasses off. Well, I'll give you like Johnny Negotiator. I'll give you a third or a fourth round pick for one of the top corners in the league. I know he's a knucklehead, but man, for him to he's still like locked in on a big money deal extension that he signed. I think he's going to make around 24, 25 million. I mean, I know he's it's inexcusable what he did, but and I can look past it. But they're not just going to give him away. I mean, they played hard-nosed negotiations with Aaron Rodgers, who made it clear he's not coming back to the Packers.
They're sitting him in a game they have to cover Justin Jefferson with like trying to make the playoffs. I think it's
Justin
really
Jefferson. Who's the quarterback for the Vikings?
Doesn't matter. Nick Mullins looked good last week.
Mullins.
What? If Hawkinson and Addison don't leave that game, the Vikings might win that game. Did you watch that game? I did.
I did
too.
The
whole game.
It was terrible. Threw some bad interceptions.
Chaz, another super chat, $1.99. Honestly, I have no faith in Drew Petzing. I think that Drew Petzing is going to go into a pivotal year next year, but you cannot fire Drew Petzing after 1 year when he hasn't had starting caliber quarterback for the most of the season. And also this roster receiver wise is just not any good. But
Arizona Animal look good. Nick Mullins?
He looked good.
Did you watch the game? That's funny that you said that to us. You watched the game?
I did watch it. Yeah. Enjoyed it.
I don't think we were watching the same game.
I guess not. See, I watch football. I'm just locked in. You're casually walking around. You got a Four Peaks in your hand.
I'm a cash.
Yeah, you're casual.
But sign me up. If there's a way to get Jaire Alexander, absolutely. That's the type of guy that can completely transform your secondary. But I don't think you're getting. I think it's going to cost you more than one of your thirds.
I hate this term because I don't think you can win in the NFL because people aren't like this. But they I don't want to say they want Boy Scouts, but they want like high character guys. And after this shit, I mean, Petzing's is part of the Shanahan tree with LaFleur.
He's got his shades on.
Yeah,
he's like, what'd I do?
It would be a time Kingsbury move for sure, but not an awesome move. Man, they've got so many needs. Like you got to make sure this offseason you're going to do splash, but you're also going to do chalk, meat, and potatoes where like you're making investments. You got to be
There's no corner in the draft that's as good as Jaire Alexander.
No. There's no corner in this draft that's as good as Jalen Johnson. This draft's cornerback class. I've started looking at some of these guys. They're solid, but there is not a Sauce Gardner. There's no Devin Witherspoon. I mean, like the Cardinals #1 and maybe #2 corner are not coming from the draft. Like you could play you could play Kool-Aid in the NFC West against Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Cooper Kupp. I would imagine it's not going to go very well for a while. Like whereas these tackles, these receivers, I think you've got a better chance at that being an immediate plug and play.
What are we doing, Eris? Jaden Daniels is the best QB in the draft. Are we drunk? Do we need to go home?
Reese is a big Jaden Daniels fan. I want Jaden Daniels to be drafted high, so I won't take the Jaden Daniels slander, even though in the bowl game for ASU 2 years ago, he literally looked like if a quarterback got injured and they put a wide out at quarterback. That's what it looked like.
Derek, John, AZ need a front seven before you think about CB. Look, they need everything. You gotta it's rush cover, and you got to be able to cover. And if you got undrafted free agents, you got guys like 6th rounder and Keitrell Clark. It's nice to see how competitive those guys are, but that's on your back end. You need to upgrade. And if somebody becomes available and they've got the draft capital, they've got the cap space, what are we doing? I mean, I'm not saying like torpedo your draft and infusing this roster with young talent, but you got a guy that's in his prime, controllable. I don't have a problem with it.
Derek, John, this is what we can tell you on this show. Been encouraged and reiterated to me a veteran corner is a top priority for them. They like their young corners, Garrett Williams, Keitrell Clark, Starling Thomas. Like, those guys are all going to be on the team next year. Those guys are all going to be better in year 2. You need experience. They want a better version, obviously, of Antonio Hamilton. They want somebody in their mid to late 20s that can come in and say, I'm CB1. Everybody else fall in line and grow into whatever kind of player you want to be. You don't get that in the draft. Like, they'll take a corner, but like whomever is lining up week 1 next year, if they face the Niners against Debo or Brandon Ayuk, is going to come from a different team. It's not going to come from internal. Whereas like the front 7, you could get a pass rusher early that can start right away, that can get you 10 sacks. That happens all the time. Or a tackle that can start at left or right tackle, or a receiver that's going to be starting at X and Y. Corner it's such a difficult position to have it translate. That's why I'm really encouraged by how well this group has played, this young group. I mean, they've shown me something where you can definitely build around them, but you need an alpha. They don't have an alpha.
Yeah, you need a dog. No doubt about it. Eddie, Jalen Johnson is 25 as well. Yeah, I mean, if the Bears let him hit the market, Monty Osfort.
Can I give you a scenario? The Cardinals sign Jalen Johnson. The Bears take Caleb. Their fans are in a tizzy. They just vomit all over themselves. Cardinals get Marvin Harrison Jr. And so they steal Jalen Johnson. They steal Marvin Harrison Jr. And they have to start over with another quarterback. I would love that. I need that scenario to happen. I would absolutely love that. And I like our friends at CHGO. I grew up in
You just hope the worst for them.
I do. I grew up 2 hours south of Chicago, and Bear fans are literally just the most agonizing fan base. The algorithm on X and Twitter is pushing Bears content at me because of this Fields, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison situation, and the naive comments I'm seeing about Fields. Somebody responded. I sent you a screen capture last night. Justin Fields is an MVP caliber player with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I got to get off the app. It almost made me want to delete Twitter when I saw that comment.
What you sent me was with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Joe Alt and the 85 Bears defense, and he needs like the Brock Purdy setup. Like, if he just had the perfect team around him, he'd be an MVP. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. You need all pro at 21 positions, and then Justin Fields is going to take you to the mountaintop.
The guy that had a 71 passer rating against the Cardinals Pee-wee football defense, he's an MVP. Stop. Just stop. Take your quarterback. Start
away from it. Oh, man. Yeah, you got to check out the latest from my guy, Howard Bolzer. Go PHNX.com. Sign up to become a diehard today, because not only are you going to get insight like Howard's giving you on a weekly basis with game stories, leading you up to the game, insight in and out of this organization. But, of course, once we hit the offseason and you're craving Cardinals content, what they're going to do this offseason, how they're going to approach free agency, who's going to be on the roster and who's not, and also what's going to happen with the NFL draft, make sure you are a diehard today, because we're going to give you exclusive content and exclusive insight into the pre-draft process, into the Cardinals offseason. Become a diehard today. Get ahead of it. Go PHNX.com, and also just bolster your entire wardrobe with great PHNX merchandise at the PHNX locker. Johnny's got the T-shirt on, the Hollywood T-shirt. We'll probably hang it from the rafters once he leaves via free agency, or retire that shirt. Then you got the true all-timer. You got the hoodie here, the PHNX script hoodie. Don't miss out on that. You can find it at phnxlocker.com.
If you want to support the show, all I need everybody to do, drop a like, as many likes as you can, and then leave a comment down below. Chat comments are great. If you leave a comment down below, it helps exponentially. All the data nerds tell me that really helps the show. So if you could do that for me, and Bo Brock and Jacob and Damon Dog and PHNX Cardinals, that would be incredibly helpful, on top of subscribing to PHNX Cardinals wherever you get your podcast. Hey, guess what? We were off Monday, which means there's a show tomorrow, a special Thursday show. And I think it's just about that time for Bo Brock and I to unwrap our first post-Christmas mock draft tomorrow. Set your calendars. It's a 4:30 show, like normal, Bo.
That's right. And we got a special guest from Pro Football Focus. Brad Spielberger is going to join the show.
Brad!
I didn't even know this. Yeah, he's going to join us, and it's going to be fantastic. Don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, PHNX Sports, here on YouTube, wherever you find podcasts. Leave a 5-star. Leave a review. We appreciate you. For producer Jacob, for Johnny Venerable, I'm Bo Brock. We'll talk to you tomorrow. PHNX Cardinals.
all silly like the mayor.